in India. Federico.
So I think that I would like to just highlight a very few points. We do believe that India has a lot of potential, and we are projecting an acceleration in the growth rate of manufacturing in the near term. However, we think that it's important to highlight a couple of areas in which India can make further progress. First is this issue of services versus manufacturing. We do believe that actually there is no either or. We think that services and manufacturing can actually go hand in hand, and exports of services and exports of manufacturing products, they're actually both going to be very closely linked going forward. One mentioned logistics. That's a very important services that goes into manufacturing, and manufacturing growth also generates a lot of jobs that are actually not necessarily directly in manufacturing, but that might be around it. So this is something important to maintain this momentum going forward. Again, this emphasis not only on manufacturing, but understanding that there are a lot of manufacturing-related services that will be very important for India to grow. The second point is the importance of importing to export. India may not have been as plugged into global value chains as in the past. It has plugged into some value chains. But one of the key things that we find when we look at global value chains worldwide is that countries that are most plugged into value chains also tend to import a lot, obviously, because that's part of participating in global value chains. So improving the ease of doing business also in terms of importing and exporting, not only exporting but also importing, is going to be very important for Indian manufacturing to continue to grow going forward. Finally, the last point that I wanted to bring up is a kind of an optimistic point. I'm actually originally from Brazil, so we always like to end up on optimistic points. Right now there's a great opportunity because India actually is a bright spot. India is now the fastest growing large economy in the world. China is going to be shedding a lot of jobs. China does not have the same demographics that India has. And there are a lot of opportunities here going forward. Even in a challenging global environment, there are a lot of opportunities from these jobs that will actually be looking for other countries where those jobs can be performed. And we think that India is a great candidate, provided it continues with the momentum of structural reforms. So I think that I'll keep my comments short, and I'll pass to the next one. Thank you very much.
Let me now invite Mr. Anupam Shah into the debate, take this discussion forward in the context of the challenges that kind of small and medium enterprises face to try and achieve some of the objectives that I've talked about, i.e. the innovation, creating employment, and of course also then contributing to India's exports. Mr. Shah?
First of all, when we are talking about MSME, if we are comparing it to other countries, our MSMEs are minuscule. They might be from 100 to 1,000 times smaller compared to the developed world MSMEs. The first issue that MSMEs are facing is access to finance at cost competitive rates. MSMEs are the ones whose assets are with the bank. You know, if you look at the NPAs of MSMEs, it's very small compared to the NPAs of the larger companies. But it is the MSMEs who are having to pay higher interest costs. So if we want MSMEs to grow, the first is MSMEs have to invest. They have to move up the value chain. You know, they have to go for automation. A lot of times we think automation and, will not create employment, but automation is a must to have a consistent, reliable product and to have productivity also. So, first thing is if we can have access to finance at cost competitive rates, in this case now, say at the base rate, if we can have finance available, then MSME can grow. MSME is the backbone of our economy. But a lot of times I feel that is one sector which is being taxed more as compared to the other sectors. Because unless we get economies of scale, consistent, reliable product delivered on time, flexible manufacturing, turnaround time has to be less, we will not be able to compete in times to come. Then again, it has to be an easier entry and exit into business. Currently, we have been talking that our ease of doing business is reduced from 142 in last year in 2014, but it was revised in 2014. Our ease of doing business was revised to 134. Now we are at 130. But if you look up at setting up a business in India, it will take 29 months, 12 procedures, while the countries which are in the top 5 might take, say, 10 days, 12 days, or 2 weeks, and single window. So we have a very, very long way to go as far as ease of doing business is concerned. To make in India happen, MSME has to be a part of the growth story.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. May I request Mr. Kishore Asani to tell us his thoughts about the role that IT can play in the Indian economy going forward, especially in the manufacturing sector?
IT has been the main forte of India in the software sector especially. Today, manufacturing organizations across the globe leverage that strength of India. So when you're trying to build a new sector in India which needs that backbone, so it's readily available. And rather it's available at a cost which is much more competitive, much more less as compared to what it is available to rest of the countries. So that way I believe it's an advantage. Look at the kind of solutions, most of the ICT solutions which today global organizations use are available in India already, including the organizations like ours or HP or other system integration or IT companies. They are using the same technology for global organization, be it in manufacturing, be it in any of other segments of IT-enabled services or any other verticals. The same solutions are today available in India. Again, cost being on our side, though the various components used in those solutions are still being imported, but the fact that the labor cost in India is far too less, the net cost of ownership is again very, very competitive for any new segment coming up in India. Let's take another strong pillar is telecom, is actually the mobility which is enabled by telecom. Today, any new company which wants to establish itself, whether in MSME category, small, micro or home office category or even large setup, what do they need? They need very, very fast time to market, right? And I believe mobility with the kind of infrastructure today, private as well as incumbent service providers have enabled in the country, that plays a vital role. Today, take example of Airtel, we cover about 88% of the landmass where mobile signal is available. Imagine the remotest part of the country where you want to put a manufacturing setup and it needs to get connected to the world ASAP. You can do it in 3 weeks or less, right? Enablement in terms of connectivity, enablement in terms of solutions, enablement in terms of cost, all are in favor. So in fact, the fourth and the biggest advantage which I would want to add is that, and none of other manufacturing powerhouse economies had that advantage, and which India is going to have, is that advent of cloud. With cloud reaching its proportions where it has reached today, and with solutions available on demand, you don't need to build peak capacities in terms of technology and pay and block a lot of your capital in building that technology. So you just use it, and as the scalability changes, as the technology changes, as obsolescence of technology comes in, you simply switch over to the latest technology, and again you adopt newer technology at the same model, which is pay-for-use model. And we are all there, available, and the go-to-market is, say, less than 3-4 weeks for any new company to establish itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dangayachia, who will look at an entrepreneur's point of view. I am told by entrepreneurs who we survey that, to start a business in the US, it takes you a day online, everything gets done quickly. In India, the process is much more laborious and tedious. Let's get an entrepreneur's view on, these costs and whether India can overcome these costs, and how can we overcome these costs of doing business.
One of the things that we all face in India when we are talking about entrepreneurial activity or manufacturing activity is that plenty of our time, or most of our time, is required to be spent on non-core activities versus the core activities. The whole world today has got plug-and-play modules for the manufacturing enterprises. And when you're talking about startup revolution, and when you're talking about, boosting up the manufacturing activity, I think it is time that we took away all the troubles and all the hassles that we are required to face for setting up a manufacturing unit. So by going for plug-and-play modules, which could be on ownership basis, which could be on rental basis, I'm sure we will be making the entry very easy, and by the same token, we'll also be making the exit also very easy. Most of the manufacturing companies, most of the enterprises in our country think that land is a hedge against the failure. And this particular thought process has to be reversed immediately. When you look at the land requirement for the manufacturing, I think, the assessment will clearly show that this is not going to be an issue. But the other clearances and things like that clearly show us the path that we must go for plug-and-play module on rental basis, on lease basis. That is what is going to be very good for us. Secondly, when we talk about the financing of the enterprises, there is a whole lot of bias in favor of creation of fixed assets. When you look at the banking sector, it is, they're willing to give loans to the people who have got these fixed assets. Now that particular thing also has to be changed for generation of business, for promotion of business, for naturally maybe doing the softer side of the business, money has to be made available. Now we have got a naturally maybe larger labor force coming into, into the mainstream every year, and therefore we will have to go for a mix of high technology, low employment, along with low capex or low capital, but high employment kind of industries. And for that, we will have to integrate with the labor policy. Our labor policy going forward should be pragmatic. In my opinion, this can be very easily done if the state government or the central government decides that for prospective employment, there can be a very handsome kind of a retrenchment compensation, which could be a part of the contract at the time of employment, will make it very easy to engage larger number of people as per the requirement and then lay them off without any kind of litigation. I would, certainly like to ask, say, Dr. Kathuria to prepare a white paper on financial accounting, pricing, and other kinds of practices in China versus what we have got in India, because we should know who our competitors, who our contenders are. When we want to move, say into the number one slot, we should at least know what number one is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dangaj. I think on that note, let me thank all of you. And if you could join me in thanking all the panelists for a really wonderful panel discussion. Thank you very much.
सेविंग्स के बारे में कुछ सोचा है?
हाँ, सोचा है, पर थोड़ा कंफ्यूज हूँ।
और रवि बाबू, सेफ्टी का सोचो, एफडी से नाता जोड़ो।
पर रिटर्न्स पे तो टैक्स कटेगा ना?
कंफ्यूजन। अब क्या कर सुनो जी?
गोल्ड में इन्वेस्ट करो, गोल्ड में। पर गोल्ड की रेट का क्या? कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा।
रवि बाबू, मार्केट में डालो, मार्केट में।
लेकिन वहाँ तो बहुत झटके हैं ना।
लोगों की फाइनेंशियल एडवाइस मतलब कंफ्यूजन। इसीलिए भारतीय एक्सा लाइफ इन्वेस्ट वंस सिंगल प्रीमियम पे 9% तक गारंटीड एडिशंस, 10 गुना लाइफ कवर और टैक्स बचत। हो गया ना कंफ्यूजन का एंड। भारतीय एक्सा लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, जीवन सुरक्षा का नया नजरिया। Highland Blue packaged drinking water. Be high on life.
दूर कितनी कौन जाने, देर कितनी।
इंग्लैंड आकर एक टेस्ट मैच देखने की पापा की कब से ख्वाहिश थी, और कुछ ख्वाहिशों को इंतजार नहीं करना चाहता।
50 सालों से करोड़ों लोगों को इंतजार नहीं, एक बेहतर जिंदगी का हक दिलवा रहे हैं। यूटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड, हक एक बेहतर जिंदगी का।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Exclusively available at Nexa.
In general, people think that we are importer. That's the brand we have. We have to come out of it. People should come with the technology, make the investment, produce here. And that's the fundamental. And for that, ease of doing business is most important.
Catch Anil Agarwal in an exclusive conversation on The Interview. Only on ET Now.
A big hello and a very warm welcome to a special episode of Brand Equity.
both the millennials and the centennials are perplexing generations and are every marketer's nightmare. Which is why today I've invited representatives from both these generations to shed light on the way they think, behave, consume,